Hello world, Frida Reba Darcy and Patricia O'Connor here, and it is our Monday drop on the Bonsai balcony. Yeah, last night we were up kind of late, thinning old needles, and today has been a rainy day. We woke up and it was raining really hard. Also, I woke up a few times last night to the sound of heavy rain. Normally I think that rain makes me sleep better, but I was kind of like waking up to enjoy it or something. It's kind of weird. Anyway, it is a day where it is just like cloudy and then sunny and then cloudy, and right now we've got it's an interesting day. We've got some puffy clouds happening, and I have a tripod handy, and I have these Bald Cypress grouping here, and I have a little assortment of items that will help us with today's show. What I thought I would do today, let me see if I can do this, give us some perspective. So we start from here, right here. If we start from here on the base of the cypress tree and go straight up, we're off quite a bit. I don't know if that reads on camera. It's about 6 inches off where I would like the top to be versus where the top actually is. It's accounting for the light and trying to stay on an arc that keeps it getting light. At the point that it is growing up now, if it grows straight up, it is starting to get diminishing return. And so it's kind of trying to lean back to find the light again. This weren't such a good light, it would be going that way, trying to find the sunlight. Notice none of those other tops are doing anything necessarily, but going straight up. They're all about this. Another observation, well, this is a little off topic from where we're going, but another little observation is there is the Japanese black pine that I did the needle reduction on a couple of nights ago. I did a pretty fair job. I still see some. I can go back and clean up, get your finger out of there. And so that's that one. And then this is the one that we did in yesterday's video. And the side of that tree, that face, I don't want to go starting any rumors, and this isn't necessarily science, but I hadn't been rotating this tree around much. The sun is quite adequate, and it gets plenty of it on that side. It gets sun longer than these lights above it are on. So this side of the tree, whatever side this is on, also now it's rotated. I put it in a different position than when I took it off. So short story long, this side of the tree did not fare near as well as the other side. Now, that could have been due to whatever pestilence that had us on the ropes. We saw things that bored into the tree and stuff. It could have affected different parts of the tree, and that's what we're seeing. But it does look like to me, I've also seen it on this tree when it needed time for a repot, and it still wasn't the time of year for a repot. I was noticing some signs from that, but I noticed it first on the side that faced outside. What I'm kind of getting at is this is still not scientific research, but I highly suspect that the sides of my trees that face these lights fare better than the sides of the trees that face the outside. That is not saying that my lights are all that, blah, blah. It could also very well be that the side that faces out has different wind issues, has different watering issues maybe. It might be that I'm not doing the reach around to get water on that side of the pot as well, although I think I think I do. I also have that issue from time to time on the oak tree, and I have seen where the soil on that side didn't do as well because it was constantly exposed to sunlight and was also harder to water. But I think it dried out faster because the sun was beaming down on the soil there. So it looks to, I noticed it also on my oak. So I would say so far, I could be wrong about this, and just because even if I'm right about it, it doesn't necessarily mean that the lights are all that fabulous. It might be that it's those other issues. It might be that it's the lack of sunset that tends to burn stuff. It might be that the sun exposure to the base of the trees in the pot causes them to heat up more, or it might be that these lights just kick butt. So yeah, also what I've been learning a little bit more about is it looks like it's highly doable to pop some cuttings off of this dawn redwood. Maybe think about our own little dawn redwood forest here in the future. But today, getting back on track, what I will do is it's going to be kind of a two-phase thing. Right now we're handheld, and that works for us. And I'm going to take this stake here, this one. I have a bunch of these. They stay bundled up in the corner, and despite the fact that they've been bundled up in a quarter for quite some time, they're fairly straight. I have won pool games with things that were crookeder than this, but anyway, that's a tale for another time. The idea is I'm going to put this stake, hopefully not through my lights, but I'm going to put this stake in the ground so that this top here that is that's leaning out the wrong direction, I'll have something to tie it to. It's not really going to be, since this is a fairly sheltered environment for these trees, it's not going to be absolutely necessary that these guys are driven into the ground 100 miles. I'm going to hold the camera still so you can see it. I went pretty deep with that. There we go. I think we can probably do, and this is the idea. So I'm not going to do one-handed square knots. I haven't practiced. In my old days as a theatrical rigger, we would as a manner of shenanigans, challenge other people to see if they could tie one-handed clove hitches and one-handed square knots. Those could save a person. So what this is the first part. So what you just saw me do there was the one thing that I'm going to do handheld. The rest of the part, we're going to go on our little tripod here with our rubber squid on it, and then I'm going to have a seat right here and use some of these utensils that you see before you and clean up all this. You kids get in here and clean up all this, and we're going to rake all of this clover up. First thing I'll probably do is go through and pick up my little bits of biogold so that that doesn't hurt what we have going. But in the meantime, this is going to do one of my shenanigans. We're going to see what we have here once I rig that. Now, where are we? Yeah, there we go. Let's try with that. That looks to me like that's a go. Okay, so here we go. Now, this is 3 bald cypress pre-bonsai trees, and I guess I could put. I didn't really think about what to do with my bio gold. I guess I can put that here and save my little lumps of bio gold. I can put that back down when I'm done. These are 3 bald cypress trees. This one and this one I ordered from a collector from northern Louisiana. I've dropped his link before. If you want it, write me in the comment section, and I'll at least put that. I'll at least text that back to you, or I'll put it in the comments, or I'll put it in the descriptions later. So yeah, that's where these 2 came from. Another person that I bought a couple of trees from out of his garden has a blog, and from time to time he will list trees that he has for sale on his blog. Also, from time to time he will do a list of trees that friends of his. It is usually local friends of his, and it's usually the kind of thing where a lot of these trees are not advertised anything but locally, and or to be local pickup. So it was while thumbing through that and that I ran across this tree. And this tree, I think, is about 16 years old, if memory serves correct. I did a chop, a V-shaped chop on the top of this tree, and that's what our twin trunks are coming out of, those little twin peaks there. So when I did that, that gave me this wedge-shaped piece of the trunk that I counted the rings on, and I believe it was 16. I'm dyslexic, so I really don't. I know in this case dyslexia wouldn't mean it's reversed, because it wasn't. I'm trying to remember if it was 16 or 19, and I believe it was the lesser of the 2. Cypress trees, when grown in public places or grown not in the wild, can be slower growth trees than what we have today. A lot of the really, really old homes in the South may have been built by cypress, and cypress would have a reputation for being termite resistant, and also being rot resistant. There are homes, I have seen homes in Louisiana that hadn't been painted in years, and they did have this kind of green looking appearance to them, but it was not rot, and they were holding up very well. But that was old growth, virgin forests, and you don't see hardly of that anymore. So whenever I was looking at the rings on this tree, I was looking at rings that weren't hard to count. They were about this far apart, and the area in between them is, somebody told me here recently, and I forgot to look into it, that the tree grows that as a filler or something, and it's not even alive. Could that be true? Anyway, it's hard for me to think about a tree growing something that at least doesn't start off as alive. But at any rate, the amount of that soft wood, the thickness of that tells you how easy of a year the tree had. It also makes for a weaker tree. This is sometimes called a red cypress because its bark does have a red color, and when you look at it, you see this red everywhere. But if when you cut it and you see the rings, in between the rings, that white area or that light yellow area, that's soft, and that contains wood that is a soft wood, and it is also got a high oxygen content to it, so it would burn fast, kind of like what I was saying about our redwoods. But also it grows fast, that it uses oxygen as a filler in between the wood cells, and the trees grow really, fatten up really fast like that, faster than they do in the wild many times. I think I have seen people who were used to other trees look and guesstimate the age of cypress trees to be much older than I think they were. And no, I would not. I threw some of my. I'm trying to keep all this. I wouldn't question their honesty for the world, but I think when they were used to seeing something that's this big or this thick, that would normally tell them tens of years. And when it comes to cypress trees that have a good exposure to water, they can grow fast. They may endure forever, but yeah, especially in captivity, especially like suburbs and parks and stuff like that. Those trees in 30 years can be almost as big as some of the things that you've seen growing in the wild that took much longer than that to grow. At the same time, it's not necessarily as resistant, as resilient. I am certainly not. I'm certainly not sending shade to urban raised trees. The more trees, the better. Absolutely, the more trees, the better. If you were the seedling of a tall cypress, raised by a tall cypress, raised by a tall cypress in the back swamps of Louisiana, more power to you. If you're a bald cypress raised on a table for a company that supplies Lowe's, more power to you. There's all kind of reasons why we seem to have less and less trees these days. So having something happen that'll bring us more would be kind of nice. I don't know if you're a helper or a herder. I'm not going to hurt you, but I don't want you hanging out here. A centipede. What do we do with centipedes? I just saw one. Not going to hurt him, but he's not going to stay either. Oh, he seems to be. Man. You know, you're okay and all. It's not against the law to be creepy. But yeah, sorry. I turned him loose in the flowers. Whatever, he'll probably find. Maybe he'll find the getting better in the flower bed. So I'm basically, my main thing is I'm not necessarily raking every bit of this in a systematic way, but I am cleaning up all this moss, and moreover, I am getting all of this clover out of here, which is normally I just don't let it get that bad, so I can pick it out a little easier than what this is. But this is really, since I started feeding this, the clover and the liverwort has started doing quite a bit better. Yeah, I've got great clover and liverwort going, more than you could ever ask for. But then I think some of this moss is doing really well. I need to pick the clover out of it. We're not going to replant that. This is a, I think this is a regular flower colander, nothing special. I intend to use that to replant all this moss that I'm collecting later. I didn't really plant this moss. I just, it's what happened naturally as a result of my giving these cypress trees copious amounts of water. They have certainly got a ton of water from me. Now we're under drought, and it's probably me. It is. It's probably me. It's like, well, they are thirsty trees. So, before the thing was, I didn't want to leave my little greenies and fuzzies here all tore up. I tried to pick out the clover. I mean, that wouldn't, but it had gotten to where there was too much of it for me to do this without tearing all of this up. So it just kind of seemed like, well, I need to go in there and start cleaning all of this up, redress the top a little, and rake out some of our crud. Now, what I've done there is I've reduced one of those clover patches to bits, it looks like. And so now I've got to go through and pick all that crud out. Yep. So, I really think the pine trees came out looking nice after the old needle reduction, after the spent needle reduction. It's like I was hoping that when I got done with that, they would look better, and that I wouldn't start then noticing that I had as of yet unnoticed problems. But no, I would say that all went about as well as could be expected on the cork bark, and I would say that went pretty well on the 17-year-old from seed. So the one that's 17 years old from seed, I said that is from Jonas at Bonsai Tonight. That's also he does demos for bonsai clubs all over, and he is also the author of the book, The Little Book of Bonsai. So that little tree, that little 17-year-old from seed tree, has a nice little lineage to it, and it's good to see it, and it's good to see it thriving here, as is Hoss. I'm really I didn't have any show hens that were things that I hadn't just collected out of the yard, really, prior to getting that tree. And I'm like, well, we're going to have to worry about things that we really haven't had to worry about, like heat, how much, we know, for instance, that the ponderosa is not going to tolerate water. the same. On one hand, the ponderosa is not going to tolerate water the same rate that the Japanese black pines will, and they're not going to tolerate water as well as some of the other pines. But having said that, the show hen in its tiny little pot, that's a whole different ball game, and I had to try to balance that, find a balance in there, and find out to what degree. It's kind of like the thing on the test where you get the questions where it says mostly true, sort of true, or always true, and you're like, yeah, a lot of this is partially to mostly. And guess right, the tree lives. Guess wrong, and but see, that's just it. It's not really all guesswork either. There is a lot of support. If you wanted to grow ponderosa pines and didn't know the first thing about it, my first suggestion would be to look at some of Bonsai Mirai stuff. Ryan is certainly capable of maintaining healthy and living trees, and his technique tends to lean towards healthier is better, while at the same time he is, if you think you would like ponderosa pines, he's definitely somebody who's going to speak your language, because he says he loves those things, and he does the programs to back that up. So yeah, now I've pretty much cleaned that up. I'm not using my favorite. I've got two pairs of scissors out. I've currently got two pairs of scissors out. I've got a stainless pair and I've got a plastic pair. Now, as far as plastic scissors go, these are important because they are not my good scissors. That's what's good about these. They're not my good scissors. What's good is if you can have some scissors not be your good scissors, but still be of a quality enough to work well for you. That's the best of both worlds. These will help me to keep my good scissors longer, while at the same time I don't feel like I have to put up a secondary cut, because the blades are almost what I would expect from my good scissors, but the handle is where they skimp, and so I can live with that. I can live with that for scissors that aren't going to be my good scissors. And so to that end, I would not go. As a rule, I don't like to prune roots with my black Japanese scissors. This is why I have stainless steel scissors. Sometimes stainless steel has some kind of really great, fantastic edge, and sometimes, and what I mean is as far as like surgical steel and stuff, but other times some of it is not really that good necessarily at all. And what it offers is the ability to not rust up on you if you take it and cut roots with it. Similar to that. I'll keep all my bio gold. So yeah, that's kind of. Let's see what else. I'm gonna clip that. Bring everything that was kind of wanting to spill over back up. Kind of rake it all back up. In a minute, I'm going to go around and do the backside, but the backside will be a little klutzier for me to do on camera and try. So we'll probably just do half of this on camera, but I'm going to do half of all of it. This half of all of it on camera before I move over. See, so I'm just taking up these guys either with my little either with my little fork. But the main thing is, most of that didn't have any liverwort in it. It's easier for me to pick out the clover looking stuff, and I think that's correct. To me, the clover looking stuff is clover looking stuff, and when people talk about liverwort, to me they mean this stuff. And we're not as crazy about it, for sure. So, yeah. That's helpful. That's when this little thing comes in helpful to rake that stuff out. Separate that from the other. I'm going to vacuum later, but there was no place I didn't like. Any place I set that, it's closer to a plant than if I just drop it down there on the floor to let it start drying out. Clean up. We've got needles everywhere for where we have been plucking needles the last couple of days. I realize you can probably see all of this as the place where I stopped. I'll get in between here and get all of this out of here too while I'm here, and straighten that up. So as you can see, I am just dumping these little bits when I see that it's just moss and it doesn't have anything too obtrusive in it, or when it doesn't have any bad moss in it, or it doesn't have any weeds in it, or it doesn't have any, then I just kind of throw the whole thing in there, but I'm not going to put it back down on the ground like that. I will use the colander, add the colander when it comes to that. I'm just going to start sifting all of this akadama. I go down 4 inches and still find Patricia here. How do I do that? Am I just like climbing in this thing in my sleep? Am I like, anyway? She's a hairy beast. So that's kind of this, pretty much this up to here side, and those are more of my bio-gold little things. So now I just kind of spread all of that back out nice and smooth. See what else I got in there that needs to, another Patricia here. Cloning me wouldn't help you. I should know. So yeah, now I'm just kind of spreading out this. The top here is sort of a boon mix, but it's about the same eighth to I would say actually I would say 16th to an eighth, not eighth to a quarter size. And underneath that, this container is almost like this close to the top from being just completely full of fine akadama. And whenever the bamboo stake hit that akadama, it's like, I don't really need to go all the way down. It hit the akadama and just went straight down there, which is kind of why it's down there, I guess. That's what you want that to do, to be easily penetrable. So while I'm here, these are going to be, this is jute. Jute is another word for poorly made string. Now, I'm sure there's some gardener somewhere that's shaking their head with that remark, but it is for gardening. It's like if you're going to stake up tomatoes and all of that, it doesn't stand out or show really big. It's a good color, but I haven't found this stuff to be, it's pretty strong like this. But if you kind of tie this in a trucker's knot and try to get something and try to use it as anything with any strength whatsoever, it'll pop really quick. Also, outside, if you've got it holding out, if you were to like you're sitting there doing stuff and all of a sudden you look above and there's a branch there. Maybe you weren't even working on that, but you decided to tie a branch back with this. It would pop fairly quickly because once this stuff gets wet and dry a couple of times, if it's doing some real work, it'll give up the ghost. So it's generally sometimes called gardening twine, sometimes called jute. I've also seen the brown stuff called jute a lot of times if it's packing string, but it will serve our purposes for tying up. This is a job for cheap scissors, not my good scissors. So what I'm going to do here is just tie off a couple of these, cut a couple of these for me to do some ties on the branches of the cypress tree to that bamboo. So it sounds like the kids are having a pretty good time at the pool. That is always nice to hear, people enjoying themselves. That's 4. And for something that is pretty light duty branch wise, that should be more than enough. But I have to move or get up from this momentary sit down drop I've got going here. So we should just move on to another sit down drop before I get up. I'm just giving it a final look and seeing what I've missed. Yeah, throw that in there. Little lumps of moss that have made little moss cakes. I can go ahead and throw those in there. I'm just about to turn right around and put them back out. If I see where they have clover, that clover looking stuff, or if I see where they have liverwort growing in them, I would call those out and or remove everything that didn't. So pretty well got that cleaned up. And in this half, now the back half is also going to have more needles on it because that's the side where the pine trees are, and I just sat there and pruned needles day before yesterday until my knees absolutely screamed. So now looking in here, you would see that I have a flower colander full of moss and slightly broken down, not totally broken down, but slightly, still pretty granular, akadama and some pumice and a little bit of lava. Your basic boon mix mixed in with all these lumps of moss collected. So what we're going to do here is just kind of start doing this and just start doing that, and I'm going to redistribute all of this through here. We're just going to, I'm not going to leave it in that, I'm just going to break it all down basically and start reapplying the akadama and the moss, laying it back down through here. And it won't even look like it. I mean, it'll probably have a green tint to it, but it will hardly even look like it's there for a while. But what you'll see, yeah, it'll mostly be akadama colored more than it will be green colored, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But right now I'm also picking out any sticks, any old roots that I saw in there. Yeah, long roots off of that clover. Thought it was staying, and so I just about got all this stuff broken up enough. It's not just gonna. This is sort of wet. I might be smarter yeah, I think it would be smarter to let this, go ahead and continue to break it up like I'm doing now. But I think it would probably be easier to do this part if I let this dry. And letting this dry will make it easier and cause me to do a better job, but it will not do anything to the akadama, nor will it do anything to the dried out little patches of moss. They will come back. It'll be easier to break them up. Well, I think I've already pretty well done that now. So you can see I've kind of got that pretty well broken up. There's another lump of clover. I think, yeah, it was a lump of clover. It might have been just a leaf, but we're not messing around. We're not doing all of this to replant clover. So this is, you know, we can give that and give some of this to go. But also if I just set this down, you can already see a lot of that akadama is filtering through there just fine. But if I let this dry out more, whenever I do this, it'll break down finer and go through the mesh without turning into mud if I try to push that issue now. So I've got a little bit of a start on that, and you kind of get what I mean in regards to the rest. So there is a needle from last night. You can kind of see what we've got going there. When we're done, I'll do this side, and then I will have also collected all of that moss, and then I'll just let it dry this afternoon or tomorrow morning, whenever this is finally dried out enough. I'll shake that out like flour on a pan, and that's about what I expect that to be, energy-wise, for what will come out of the bottom of that flour sifter. So yeah, that's not really a high dollar. That's a Safeway-ish flour sifter. And I don't think having any other sifter would have made that do any better, as damp as it is. Probably should have thought about that. So here we are. I'm going to walk around back behind the camera, see where frame is, and then try to make an adjustment that's not overly spastic. I think there, what I could barely see of frame, it looked like that might have been it. It also looks like, I think maybe that's level. Okay, so on my little bamboo, I'm going to tie square knots, and I'm going to leave them kind of loose. And to tie a square knot, you go either way. The way I said, or the opposite. Either one will do a square knot. Left over right, right over left. Now another way to think of that is, it's the same piece of string as the one on top both times. And when you do that, you get one of those, and that's a square knot. If you do it wrong, you get something called a granny. That's what a square knot will do. That's how you attach two pieces of rope together if one of your pieces of rope is too short. More than you ever wanted to know about rope tricks, but hey, I am nothing if not a head full of mostly useless tricks. Left over right. Even after all these years, this Dexia still wants to have its say with me to some extent. We do okay, but yeah. see, so it's not like this is not under any high tension or anything. This is just guiding it along. They shouldn't leave any marks. They shouldn't be leaving any marks on the trunk in any way. Right over left. Left over right. And actually, if I did these wrong and tied a granny, it wouldn't really matter. But it's always better. It's always better for me to practice my knots because I am dyslexic. And it's not just enough to know, it's to keep that muscle memory alive. Yeah. So, those are my little guide strings. This one needs to be tighter. Do that again. So, if you've got one of these and you want to undo it, grab both ends and push them together. And I could manipulate that to get it to do what I wanted, or I could just undo part of it and start over. Let's see, this was right over left, so now we're going to do our left over right. And in rigging, the reason why a person might want to tie or be able to tie a left-handed bowline is if you were in the event of like scaffolding failure or something and you find yourself hanging with one hand, the ability to tie a piece of rope with the other without having to let go of the other thing you're holding could be crucial. It's also a basic in climbing is whenever possible you want to be supported with 3 points. That just kind of leaves you one hand to work with if you're free climbing. So the ability to do a lot of things with that one free hand is crucial to the job. So while I'm here with a pair of scissors and all y'all, I might as well cut off anything I see coming straight out of the top. So yeah, I'm here, the scissors are here, and some of those shoots are pulling shenanigans, and so they're here with their shenanigans. So it just makes for a perfect moment to do just a little bit. I'm not taking off any more off these trees than maybe a chubby squirrel would. Yeah. If I were a chubby squirrel, I would probably do more damage to these trees than what I did there. So yeah, no major work there, just a little bit. The stuff that comes straight up and the stuff that comes straight down. Also, where I have 4 of something, which usually means at least 2 of those are going to be one straight up and one straight down. But if you have 2 or 3 of something in the same spot, that will also make a big knot in the branch that you will probably feel the need to deal with later some kind of way. This is about to be one of those coming out of the top branches. So just a slight amount of cleanup there, I'm going to see if I can plug this camera without causing anything too horrific. All right, we're back to suited. That's kind of, except I'm going to sprinkle out more of this when it dries as stated, but that's kind of the way I want that to look, except I'm going to take a few minutes to do the other side here in a minute. All of these trees that got rained on today are absolutely loving the fact that they got rained on today. Even the cork bark black pine, 75-year-old cork bark black pine that got watered a couple of days ago. I'm like, well, it got watered a couple of days ago. On the other end, it's inside my house and it shouldn't be inside my house. But on the other end, rainwater is really good for them. So I set it out here and let it get some while the getting was good. And there's another little quick look at at Simply P. And the other pines are all thriving. The other cypress trees are all thriving. Everybody's enjoying the fact that they got some fresh water. I said yesterday or a couple of days ago that I was going to find something in the junk drawer or wherever to raise that pot up higher than the drip tray I have for it. And as you can see, lip balm bottles to the rescue. Jars, not bottles. Those are little lip balm jars. They're small enough to act like little pedestals, and they raise that pot out of the tray. The tray could overflow now, and it still wouldn't come up to the bottom of that platter. I'm just, here's what. This soil is not what I normally use. When I got these trees came, also I cleaned this up yesterday for the most part. These trees came to me in a a square of little tray squares of, this is like crushed brick. I've put akadama on top of it, but when they came to me in like this red crushed brick, really super hard. It looked like the same stuff that we ran track on in high school back a million years ago. But here's what, since I didn't know about muck, and since I didn't have some kind of super substrate to hold underneath these, we have had our slight issues with erosion, and that has given us these little spreads on these root bases that I think in a little while I may luck out. It's like sometimes maybe some of your mistakes help you out some. But look at the spread in the root base for this guy, and that is basically brought on by a little bit of crowding, so it knows that it needs the hustle to establish some roots so that it gets its share of everything, while at the same time there was some erosion of the topsoil. So I can't even see that one. They're hiding in the clouds. Usually that loud, sometimes though they're bright orange. Life flight helicopters. You always tell when it's the medical people. So this is going to be our Monday drop, and this is a quick look at how all of our guys are looking. These guys got a healthy little watering just a little while ago. I expect us to do some more cuttings here in just a little while and add to that. Go ahead and fill that puppy on up. We've got at least 40% of the space left over, and that's it. This is our Monday drop. Everything is looking really nice and lush. We staked up our cypress tree. So now this leader, the tree starts down there and the top's up there. And even though it does this real pretty, what I love, arc, the top and the bottom make some sort of alignment. To me, if that's what we're going for, and it is, then that's good. Same with the other side. Our base is there, our top is there. If you were to draw a line, you would see that that's also bow-shaped, but the top and the bottom, when those two are lined up, it makes a straight line. Good. So they're not semi-slanting, right? Their tops are over their base, basically. So what I had going with the center one is that as it was growing up into the light, it began to get darker up here, and as it got darker up here, its tendency was to want to go that way. I thought that it would probably sense the sun and go that way, but it didn't. It wanted to back or lean back and keep in the light. It would have slowed down its growth to stay in the sweet spot, except that these lower branches were like, not so fast, Eddie, we want up there in the good stuff. So as they keep pushing their way up, that takes our top right on past. So we've staked that off in a direction where when the end of spring becomes the beginning and middle and end of summer, which is this week, I think, and then we go from summer to fall, all of that hardens back off into a more permanent tree structure. We will already have that guy going the way we want to. Now there's a dozen ways to fix that. We can still fix that with wire. We can do that later when it's hardened off with wedge cuts, or we could just do that with a piece of bamboo and some of the worst string ever made in 5 minutes. So that's what we did there, and that's what we got going there. This little thing, for being kind of in the way, is paying off. It's really handy when it comes time to work on the cypress trees. So thank you so much for watching. I think you can probably see that top is making a nicer approach skyward. So yeah, I hope you have a fantastic week. Our next drop will be our Wednesday drop. Yeah, thank you so much for watching.